Hey, this is Attorney Andre, and I want to talk to you about something that I talked about before. Remember, I made another video, and I'm going to link it somewhere here. The government can do no wrong. So one of the things that the government can actually do is take property. And a lot of times, this property taking has to be done for the benefit of the general good. But what happens when the government says, you know what, I'm going to take your property, and there's nothing you can do about it? Well, it's not just that. If you take a look at a situation like the border in Texas, so for the government to secure the Texas border, they took a whole bunch of property. They took a whole bunch of property of farmland. And maybe that was super cheap. But if we're talking about a place like Miami, like New York, like California, places in California, Los Angeles, these places are very expensive, and land is super expensive. So what happens when a government decides to take property, and this is happening in Miami right now. So the government wants to take property that is owned by somebody else, and they want to build a park. And building a park is a wonderful thing. Everyone wants to have a park built. But what is that going to cost? Because the government is saying, well, look, your property costs maybe a couple of $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. And the property owner is saying, what do you mean $2 million, $3 million? I wanted to build an apartment complex. I wanted to build a shopping center. Now you're taking it from me. So my property, in reality, I think the property is worth, I don't know, $300 million. It's a big piece of property. And you want to take it from me that I bought, and you want to turn it into a park for the benefit of everyone else. And everyone is loving it. Everyone is saying, yeah, you know what? We want a park. We want a place for our kids to play. We want a place for this to happen. But on the other hand, what do you have about private property? Let's say it's your property. You bought it as an investment, or your house, and then the government says, you know what? You have a beautiful looking house. Wouldn't it be great to turn it into a park so everyone can enjoy it? And I think that's fundamentally improper. But the law stands that it's called a government taking. They have the right to do it. The government can do no wrong, but they have to pay a price. What is that price? The government will come up with one price. Let's call it $1 million. You'll come up with another price saying, no, it's not $1 million. It's $100 million. That's the fair thing. And if the government doesn't agree, if you can't negotiate, if you can't make this negotiation work, then you're going to have a trial. And that's what happened in Miami. In Miami, there was a jury trial, a jury of everyone, a jury of your peers. And the jury said that this property is worth $10.8 million, so $11 million. And the government has to say, okay, if the fair market value of this piece of property is worth $11 million, but I only wanted to pay $1 million, for example, am I going to have to pay that price? Do I pay it? Because it's a jury finding of what the property is worth. It's not a finding that the government has to pay it. So the government can say, you know what, too expensive, $10 million, not worth it for me. Or the government could say, $10.8 million, I want to build a park for the public. I want to do this. You know what? We're spending a lot of money on nonsense. This is at least money that is good for the general public. And $10.8 million is not a lot in comparison to what we're collecting in taxes and other fees. And they'll pay the $10.8 million, and the other side has to sell it because it's going to be a government taking anyways. So that's really the paradigm. You have a government that's going to say, yes, I want it. You have a private citizen that's saying, no, you can't have it because it's mine. And then you have a jury that's ultimately going to say, what's the property worth? And you're going to have discovery, and you're going to have a whole court case. It might go on for years. But at the end of the day, the jury is going to say the property is worth however much amount of money. And the government is going to have to either pay it or not pay it. They have a certain amount of time to pay it. They have 30 days to appeal. If it's a jury verdict, they have 15 days from rendition of the jury verdict. It's a non-jury verdict. If it's a non-jury verdict, they have 30 days. And it's pretty much the same in any state you go to. Pretty much the same, these paradigms. Because a lot of what Florida does mimics other states and mimics federal law in these kinds of situations. So that's really what we're dealing with. Now, I want to know what you think. Do you think it makes sense, or do you think it's fair for the government to just take whatever property they need for the benefit of the general good? Do you think that there should be a method for when government can't take property? Because anyone can say it's for the general good. I can take something and then turn it into something for the general good. You can even build a homeless shelter. You can build something for defense contractors. You can build something, a fence. You can build an electrical grid. You can spend money really easily. If you're the government, you can spend money so easily. I mean, if you're not the government, you can spend money very easily. Just ask my wife. I'm kidding. If she's listening, I'm kidding. But the reality is that it's so easy to spend money. So you can always find a pet project to spend money on. And the question is that actually worth it? And that's really a political discussion. Should there be government taking? Should there be a fair amount that's determined between the parties? Or should it automatically go to a jury and say, you know what, if you want to take this piece of property, you can take it, but I want the value of it. The value of it today, or the value of it what we intend to develop it. Because I bet you that piece of property, if you develop it, it's worth way more than $10.8 million. Way more than $10.8 million. I'm sure if you develop it into a housing complex, into a store, into a church, into whatever you're going to develop it, it could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But they're probably looking at the point of non-development as the property sits there today, because there is a premise in law that what we call expectation value, where if the expectation value is too vague, anything could happen in the future, then the court can't consider it. You can consider it in a court of public opinion, but you can't consider it for the purposes of a jury trial. So that's really what we're dealing with. Is it fair to look at the value as it stands today, the piece of land, undeveloped, with rocks and dirt and whatever the hell else is there? Or do we look at the piece of property in its totality based on what it would be, what would it expect to bring as an investment? Now, that's really what I want you to know. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your comment is. Do you think that it should be based on the total value, the investment value? Do you think government seizure of property is fair? Do you think all of that? And by the way, I'm going to link a reel that I posted, a story about how I litigated a case where the government seized property in an airport. That's not the same thing. The way that a government takes property in an airport that they suspect is connected with a crime is totally different than the way that the government takes property that they're doing for the betterment of the public. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. You know what you got to do. And I'm Attorney Andre. I'm here to answer all of your questions. I'm always here for you. Stay tuned.